Alright, so this video is going to be a continuation of my declutter series, but on a very specific level. The previous video covered my lipsticks. I just wanted to cut those down, and I did. And now we're going to be starting in on palettes, and I have some here, and they are mostly up on the tops of those shelves there. So they are just messy, and I can't stand that, so I want to cut down some of them. Just based on the fact that I don't have enough space, and I'm pretty sure there's at least a few palettes that I can get rid of that I've just been hoarding for absolutely no good reason. So while I love palettes quite a bit, and that is my favorite thing in makeup, the reality is that I don't use everything that I have, and I might as well pass it on if I have something that could be useful for somebody else. So I'm gonna first collect all the palettes and throw them on the bed, and we're gonna get to sorting them. Alright, I have a mountain of palettes here. Palettes are my favorite thing in makeup, which is why I have so dang much of them. But there's some I don't use, so let's dig through. I'm first going to start by pulling up the palettes that there is no chance in hell that I'm getting rid of. Most of that is Too Faced and some Urban Decay stuff, as well as some Kat Von D stuff, so I'm just going to pull those out because there's no way. Those are not going anywhere. Oh, also, all of my Makeup Geek shadows, as well as my MAC palettes, those are going nowhere. I am keeping those 100%. Same thing with my Inglot palettes. I love these so much, and I am never getting rid of those. Okay, so I've kind of gotten to an area over here of things that I know I'm going to get rid of, so I'm just going to talk about those. The Balm Meet Matte Nude. It is a lovely palette, but I don't reach for it. And I also think that the color combination here is a little bit strange. These are not colors that I would pair together. So I'm going to get rid of that. Just thought I'd zoom you in a little bit more so you can see a little bit better. The Comfort Zone 8 Pan by Wet n Wild. I love this thing. It's great, but I don't use it. And I don't think there's actually any matte shades in this, so I'm just going to pass this on. This Mayron Fire palette, I wanted to love this so badly. Just look at those colors in there. But I can't stand the pigmentation on them. I just think the quality is not there, and I'm really sad about it, and I don't reach for it, so I'm gonna get rid of it. I have a bunch of smaller Maybelline palettes here that I've been holding on to because they're just kind of, I guess, sentimental a little bit. I first started buying these because I think it was Emily Noel was recommending them, and they are fantastic, but I mean, they're kind of old at this point, and while powder products stay good forever practically, I just don't reach for these quads, so I'm gonna move on with my life and get rid of these. These Wet n Wild 6 pan ones are beautiful, but the only one I actually use is this California Roll one, so I'm gonna keep that, and I'm gonna get rid of the Embrace Obscurity one. Okay, so as you guys may be aware, I really like my Sleek palettes. I think they are absolutely fantastic, but there's one in here that I never reach for, and that's this Au Naturel palette. I found the pigmentation on this one surprisingly dry, and I really also don't like the color palette on this. I find it's really odd. Whenever I put a look together, I was never really satisfied with it, so I'm just gonna get rid of that one. All right, another one that I've just never reached for, and I've had it for a year now, is the NYX Beauty School Dropout palette. It has a ton of product in here. You've got a ton of eyeshadows, a lot of face items, like there's bronzers, highlighters, and blushes, but I don't tend to use these all-in-one palettes when they're so bulky like this, so I'm just gonna pass this on because somebody else would appreciate this a lot more than I would. All right, I've got a controversial one I'm definitely gonna be getting rid of. This is the Naked 2 palette. I bought it because I love the original one, and I wanted to keep it just to keep it in the family kind of thing, but like, I don't use these shades ever. The only one I actually like is Tease, and the Blackout shade is a great black, but honestly, there's no point. It's taking up space, and somebody else is going to love this a lot more than I am, so I am finally getting rid of this one. I am, however, going to be keeping the Naked 1 and the Naked 3 palette. This was a specially done one at an Urban Decay event that I got. This one's barely touched because I did actually trade off my used Naked 3 palette that I had before, but I'm keeping this one because it's personalized and very special. And then this is the first ever palette that I ever owned, and I've hit pan on 2 of the shades in here, and I still reach for this thing. I think it is a fantastic palette and probably the first palette that most people should own in their collections. Okay, I am definitely keeping my 2 Anastasio Beverly Hills palette. The Modern Renaissance is a beautiful palette. Everybody needs to own this. And this one I actually got at a blogger swap one time. This is the Maya Mia palette. Incredible. The shades in here are absolutely fantastic. You can't get it anymore, but these older palettes are just as good as the new palettes by Anastasia. So keeping those. For Lorac, I don't have a ton, but I have the Mega Pro 2. I am forever regretful that I never got the original Mega Pro. Oh, geez, that was so gorgeous. I don't reach for this a ton, but it is handy because the diversity is pretty good. So I'm keeping this. And then the Lorac Unzipped Gold, I don't use very often, but I do quite like it. So I'm definitely keeping that. For my Anastasia Glow Kits, I am definitely keeping these. These are some of the best products for highlighting that are kind of like not normal, so to speak. I think they're incredible. I just wish that so many of them weren't limited edition. Like this Gleam kit, you can't get this guy anymore. This was wonderful. And I think the Sweets and Moonchild are still available, but only on their website. So you have to get them that way. But I am keeping all of those. Juvia's Place is a recent purchase. Love it so much. Definitely keeping that. Visart Editorial Brights palette. Can't get enough of this thing. I actually broke it and my husband actually retaped it together. Love the shadows in here. They are always, always handy. I've got some Charlotte Tilbury quads. I have the Rebel, which is the green quad, as well as the, what's this one? Vintage Vamp. Super expensive. These are like 64 Canadian, but I love them, so I'm definitely keeping those. Okay, I've got 2 Laura Mercier palettes here. This is the original 2013 Artist palette. Love this thing so much. I'm glad they released it as a permanent product. I'm keeping that. But I think it's finally time to do away with this product. This is the, what's this called? Artist Palette for Eyes and Cheeks. It just turned out to be such a dud. The eyeshadows are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. The quality is really, really good. But I don't reach for this palette. And this block of like rose gold in the middle is totally useless to me. So I might as well pass it on. I'm really sad that I bought this at full price. But hey, what are you gonna do? All right, so I know I said I wasn't gonna be getting rid of any Too Faced products, but I need to get rid of this thing. This thing is just absolute garbage. This is the Too Faced Love palette. I think it was released probably like 4 years ago, maybe something like that. It's just bad. There's too much shimmer. There's not enough consistency. It's like flaky, crumbly. I don't even like the color palette in here. So I was originally gonna keep it just because I'm becoming like a Too Faced collector, but I can't. Like this is just taking up space and it's a waste. So goodbye. So this is the recent Make Believe in Yourself palette from Tarte. I am definitely keeping that one. It is fantastic. The Tarte Tardis Pro palette, I just recently got this one from PR and I am putting together a challenge week for this one, so I'm currently working on it and obviously not getting rid of that. I have this Tarte Rainforest After Dark palette. This was one of my first Tarte palettes and honestly the consistency is not great. It's really dry, kind of chalky. The blush is nice, but the shades are kind of iffy for me. I think I'm gonna keep it just for posterity, but I don't really reach for this one a lot. Also, an interesting note about the Tarte palettes, now they have that really nice vanilla / chocolate scent to them. When they first came out with eyeshadows, they reeked. They stank so bad. I mean, not if you put them on your face, but if you stuck your nose up to these smelled like chalk and like dirt. So I think they started masking the scent of their eyeshadow with some actual scent put in there, but it's just interesting to see how they've changed that over time. This is not a palette, but it stays up there because it's so bloody big. This is the House of Lashes Lash Story. I love this. Obviously, this is going nowhere. This is the Tarte Swamp Queen palette. Love this thing to pieces. Definitely keeping this one. This is the Cargo You Had Me at Aloha palette. I just got this and I'm going to be doing a challenge week on it, so I'm definitely keeping this one. This is a much beloved Tarte palette. This is the Off the Cuff palette from 2013, I think. Love this thing to bits. Definitely keeping that one. This is another Tarte palette. This is the Pinup Girl palette. A reader actually sent this to me because she happened to pick up 2 of them, so I am definitely keeping this one. I love Tarte blushes so much. This is the Becca Jaclyn Hill palette with the 2 highlighters and 3 blushes. Keeping this. I think this whole thing is incredible. I don't wear Prosecco Pop a ton, but the colors in general are beautiful. This is another one I'm working on, so I can't really get rid of it. I'm not sure what I think about it because I haven't even used it yet. This is the Urban Decay Nocturnal Shadow Box. I think it came out in January. It's more of their older style packaging. And those are the shadows inside. So I'm going to be reviewing that at some point soon. This is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. That must have not been a huge seller for them because I think it went on sale so freaking fast. I am keeping this, but I am not truly in love with it. I just think that this middle row has great shades, so I want to keep it. The Tartlet in Bloom palette, I am definitely keeping this. This turned out to be amazing, and I wasn't really expecting it. Side note, I just dropped this thing, and actually it's all still intact, so good job on the packaging, Tarte. I've got 2 Sonia Kashuk palettes here. This one was a limited edition one. It's called Jewel of an Eye palette. Definitely keeping that. And this is the Ion Neutral 2 palette. Both fantastic quality. Keeping those for sure. And here we have the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. This was limited edition at one point, but I think they've re-released it as a permanent product. I am one of the only people that is not in love with this palette. I do use it occasionally, so I will be keeping it, but for whatever reason, whenever I put an eye look together with this, I'm not totally in love with it. But I still want to keep it, so I am. So one palette I know I'm going to be getting rid of is this Smashbox Double Exposure palette. I actually really like this palette. I think the shadows inside are fantastic quality and the shades are wonderful. But I have these shades in other palettes and I think I just want to get rid of this one. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great buy and if you want it, you should absolutely get it. But for me, it doesn't really suit me enough to want to keep it because I have these shades elsewhere. So away it goes. I have the Too Faced Love Flush blush palette, keeping all of that because it's so convenient to have all of their blush colors in one handy palette. This is the recent Urban Decay After Dark palette. I don't reach for this as much as I thought I would. I do quite like the colors, so I will be keeping it. And of course, the other Urban Decay palette that looks like the same as the After Dark, it's the same kind of packaging. This is the Electric palette. I think it's discontinued now, guys, but this is hands down one of my favorite palettes that I own. The colors are incredible, so that is definitely a keeper. I've also got this super bright Smashbox palette. This is the Cover Shot Bold. This is going nowhere. I love it. All right, this Urban Decay Urban Spectrum palette, I've kind of gone back and forth with myself on whether or not to keep this so many times, but the reality is that I don't reach for it because of this crap packaging. It is so frustrating to have this weird boxy lid that like slides on and then falls off, but there's a mirror inside. I think I just need to get rid of it. The colors are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but the packaging just makes it so stupid to me. So sadly, I think, yeah, you're going away. This is the Kat Von D Shade and Light Rust Quad. I love this. I do travel with it quite a bit, so I am keeping that. This is the Becca Hombre Rouge palette. Pretty generic colors, but I like them, so I'm keeping it. This is the Soap and Glory Lid Stuff Quad. I think I'm going to get rid of it. I quite like it, but they are very pale and I don't tend to wear this very often, so yeah, bye. This is the Stila Eyes Are the Window Mind palette. Really like this one. Except that looks like it's shattered in there. I don't know how that happened. I will be keeping this one. This is the Tartlet Tease palette. Really adorable, super cute for travel, but I have these shades and then some in other palettes, so I think I'm just gonna pass this one on. And I'm already all keeping these, but I'm just gonna mention them. This is the Too Faced Little Black Book of Bronzers, the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette, Too Faced Sweet Peach, Too Faced Stardust, Too Faced Peanut Butter and Honey palette. I hate this thing, but I am still keeping it because it has a small place in my heart. The Too Faced Everything Nice palette, holiday palette from a few years back, keeping that. A few of my favorite things. The Too Faced and Nikkie Tutorials Power of Makeup collection. This was a terrible palette, but I like Nikkie Tutorials and I like Too Faced, so I'm just gonna keep it. Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar Palette, definitely keeping that. This is my favorite one out of all of them. Oh, love it. More holiday sets. I have the Grand Hotel Cafe set. I am keeping that. There are 3 palettes in here. And I don't reach for them a ton because the packaging is a little bit strange, but again, Too Faced collector, so keeping that. Christmas in New York palette. This is the Chocolate Shop, as well as the Merry Macarons, keeping those. The original Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, love this, keeping it. And then I have the Too Faced Totally Cute palette and the Peanut Butter and Jelly palette, keeping both of those. The Sweet Peach Glow palette, as well as the Sugar Pop palette. Oh, and more recently, I do have the Natural Love palette. I am keeping that because I literally just bought it. All right, this is hands down my favorite release that Urban Decay has ever done. This is their Vice 3 palette from a holiday collection a few years back. The shadows in here are absolutely stunning, and I do still reach for this palette quite frequently, so I'm keeping that. One that I am going to get rid of, even though it kind of, I don't know, it breaks my heart, but again, I don't reach for it, so there's no point keeping it. This is the Marc Jacobs About Last Night Style Icon palette. This was the 2016 holiday release. Wonderful, wonderful palette. But I don't use it, so I might as well pass it on. This is a neutral palette, which is not something that I even wear all that frequently, so I know somebody else is going to appreciate this one. I have 2 NARS duos that I'm going to keep just because I want to. One is, let's see, this is Rated R, and then this one is Méditerranée. Like the colors in this one, also in that one, keeping them. All right, just to cover my Kat Von D palettes, I'm not getting rid of any of these, but I thought I'd just mention them. The Alchemist palette, this thing is wonderful. You need this in your life. The Metal Matte palette from this year's holiday collection, love this one. Although it's enormous, like this thing is huge. The Shade and Light eye palette, love it. The Mi Vida Loca Remix palette. This is a bulky, bulky packaging, but I cannot deny these eyeshadows, so I'm keeping that. The Pastel Goth, which was a little bit of a weird palette for me. I'm not in love with how this ends up looking at my eyes, but I do like the overall aesthetic of them, and they can be used in combination with other palettes, so I will be keeping that. But you know what? I said I was going to keep all the Kat Von D palettes, and now I'm looking at it, and I don't really need this star-studded palette one. I feel like the shadow quality is different on this one compared to her newer formulas, and there's nothing about this palette that sort of speaks to me, so I'm going to pass this one on. Well, I definitely surprised myself. There's a lot more palettes in here that I'm getting rid of than I thought I was going to be. I like the way it looks on my bookcase now though, so I am more than happy to be getting rid of these because I know I just won't use them. And just to give you a look at the completed area, I managed to get rid of 18 palettes, which is surprising to me because I did not think that I was going to be ditching that many, but much cleaner now, and I don't have as much clutter down here as I did before. Those are still items that I am testing out. But overall, I am quite happy. I hope you enjoyed seeing me declutter some of my palettes, and rest assured that they will be going to good homes. I definitely just don't throw stuff out, especially when they're eyeshadow palettes. Those things are sacred. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!